Come to Los Angeles. The sun shines bright. The beaches are wide.
Welcome back to the real world. It is an annual tradition. It's happened twice, so we can call it annual. First annual is not a thing, people. Christmas podcast. My name is Matt Waters. I am joined by Mike Thomas. How are you this fine Christmas time?
I'm doing well. It's Christmas time. I'm excited for this podcast for reasons that are not entirely rational.
Okay, well that's
I just like the fact that we do this.
Yeah, I think it's cool. So you may remember last year we did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Carol. We each brought a Christmas film, an alternative Christmas film to the table.
Well, you see, Matt, there's this little sense of humor called irony. Yes. And being genuine about things is not nearly as funny as being half-heartedly interested in things.
Please, American, explain irony to the rest of the world.
It's quite the phenomenon, and we're kind of at the vanguard of it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Indeed.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. We decided that we needed incredibly specific parameters this year. We needed detective stories, barely mentioning Christmas at all, set in decades past, with some narration to open it, and if possible, they need to feature both Kim Basinger and Russell Crowe. And what we came up with was LA Confidential and The Nice Guys, which those may be the only two films, I would assume those are the only two films in existence that fit that set of parameters.
Yeah, we really got lucky. When we came up with these parameters, we kind of assumed it would cover a wider net.
Yeah.
And
but here we are.
We could have been stuck with only one film, but we got two, thankfully.
We did. It's amazing. So you have brought to the table this year LA Confidential, which we're going to get started with. I don't know if you would like to have a little soliloquy about it, or if you just like to have some open dialogue.
In fact, actually, I would love an aside, so please ignore everything I'm about to say while I turn to the audience. Just a little Shakespeare humor.
Nice.
This is the weirdest comment I'm going to say. This movie, means a lot to me for, it's like a childhood movie, which is a really fucked up childhood movie.
Yeah, I'm learning so much about your adult life through this being a childhood movie for you.
I guess, I don't know how young I was when I first saw it, but to the extent that you consider it a great movie, which I'm not saying it's, objective or anything, it was one of the early quote-unquote great movies that I saw. Yeah. So it was like tasting food that was trying to have more than chicken nuggets, for the first time.
What is that?
It's like your taste of all, and you're like, oh my god, food doesn't just have to be chicken nuggets. Movies don't just have to be stupid. It was like a movie I was like, wow, movies are, amazing. Movies are blowing my mind right now.
High art.
And it was a movie I pushed on, I showed to a lot of people, I think, and I was just like, look how amazing this movie is. Yeah. And it's nowhere near that amazing, but the movie is so embedded in my brain at this point that it's not that I can't be objective about it. It's just that I know it. It's like a memory at this point. It's like it just exists for me, permanently. So it's hard to assess it as objectively as I would with a movie coming out tomorrow.
We've brought several of these to the table. Me with Adventureland, you with Hoop Dreams. We have these films that are just very intrinsic to us. And I would say, while you can't be objective about it, I think a good 70 to 80% of LA Confidential is excellent. So biases aside, I think it's a very good film.
Yeah, I do think it's still good. I guess I watch it probably once every 2 years on average at this point. And I wouldn't say I always discover something new, but it's a very weird film in a way that I did not appreciate, certainly.
Sure. 10,
15 years ago when I first saw it. In some ways, it's incredibly cynical in a lot of ways. And yet, there's just these weird moments of cops care about rape victims. What a
novel idea.
What a revolutionary idea. And then at the same, it's such a cynical movie about individuals, but then, there's these random moments, and institutions, but there's just these random moments where people care about things that they don't, where specifically police departments care about things they don't typically care about.
I think there is a overwhelming sense of cynicism to it generally, and then the odd character will do something nice, and then it... But then, Ed Exley...
it's so important how much you care about beating up people who commit domestic violence. That's just a real passion of me as the captain of the police department.
Yes. That's his thing. In both of these movies, he beats up people that aren't great to women.
Yeah, it's a weird. I don't know. There's just something weird about it that I don't even know if it feels. I think there's probably a lot more there than we have time to get into.
It's a very
Christmas
dense
podcast.
It is a very dense film, I would say. It doesn't feel overly long.
No.
It it's over 2 hours, but I wouldn't say it drags. But it's just there's a lot going on. Like you've got three separate narratives plus the main one going on.
Right.
And like I said when we did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, like I wish there were more detective films being made. It doesn't need to be a complete glut of them, but I just feel they're a little bit too few and far between because I personally enjoy this kind of a story where you've got these different characters who are sort of overlapping with each other, and each of them has a different piece of the puzzle, and it's like if you guys could just get your shit together and compare notes, you'd probably solve this goddamn thing.
Yeah, which I think one feels kind of true to life, and two is kind of gripping inherently to watch.
Yeah.
And I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but I think especially now as I become as I get older and understand how movies work better. I think kind of one of the fascinating things is just like how blatant this movie is based on like three character arcs in a way that like I couldn't appreciate at the time. Yeah. But just like literally like Guy Pearce is, a stick in the mud asshole with a certain point with a too narrow perspective on the world. Yeah. Kevin Spacey is a sellout who doesn't care about things. And he has to learn to care. He has to learn to care about things.
The celebrity cop.
Yeah. Russell Crowe, I don't know, is stupid and has to be smart.
Like a crusader, like a bit of a vigilante, but with a badge almost.
Yeah.
I think it is really effective the way, characters are very important in movies, and
that's the type of analysis we've been bringing to the real world for several years.
Characters are quite important, but I just mean a lot of movies don't put in enough legwork to make you not necessarily like the characters, but feel in any way invested. And your first sort of, you open with the Danny DeVito monologue to set the scene, but after that, your first 6 scenes are one each for these main 3, and it's like, right, here's Bud, here's Jack, here's Ed, here's some more Bud, here's some more Jack, here's some more Ed, and then the inciting incident that brings them all together. And I think it is really effective, just immediately shows you who they all are and take you on these different journeys.
You're right. Characters are important to movies, but no.
Thank you.
It's true though, because movies that don't put in that legwork, as you say, they feel you become less invested in them because there's nothing to care about.
Yeah. You can recognise how each of these guys is kind of an asshole in his own unique and special snowflake way. But I want to see what becomes of them because they put in this legwork early on. And I'm like, right, I get who you are. I want to see you either get taken down or served up a slice of reality or whatever. But it's better than just here's some dudes, I don't know, whatever.
And all three of them do a really good job. I think...
Yeah, they all sell it really well.
Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable. I haven't watched a lot of Kevin Spacey in the last 6 months.
No,
or I guess last year.
I don't think I've seen any Kevin Spacey since.
Yeah. Since we finally accepted as a society that he's been doing this for so long.
Yes.
And
seeing him be a crusader coming to the aid of a slain gay man, I was just
especially a
younger gay man as well.
A younger, vulnerable gay actor. Did you see? By the way, oh my god, did you see the John Oliver clip from the season finale of his show?
No.
Where it was like a little 30-second joke montage of clips that have not aged well, and it was Charlie Rose, I think, or Matt Lauer interviewing Kevin Spacey, and they asked, so when you're doing seminars and workshops, who are you looking for? Who are the people and he's like, I'm looking for the shy boy in the corner, and I'm just oh my god. First of all, how do they find these clips? But second of all,
to catch a predator, Kevin Spacey.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god, it's so depressing. Anyway.
Yeah.
In the most self-involved way, least empathetic way possible, I was watching this being like, fuck you for not being an asshole because you're such a good actor. And he really, it's kind of the most cliche role I'd say of the three, which is that Thor learns to care about people. That's his journey here.
Jack
and
gets
he
man
does it
killed.
So well.
Thinks this wasn't good, was it?
Yeah, he does it so. Yeah. He does it so well.
I think, obviously he should feel guilty, but in his face, in his mannerisms, you can see
Yeah.
that it affects him when Matt Reynolds dies, and just the change in his demeanor after that, and sort of getting a little bit more serious when he's conducting all of his business with a smile and a smirk, and you get the sense he's asked, "Why did you become a cop?" and he says, "I don't really remember," and it's just like this is just I think he just recognizes this as a role that is respected in society, and he just wants to be important. And he feels it with this, even though he is on the same level as Ed. And there
are a lot of small moments that just kind of reveal a lot about who he is as a person. I think my favorite one is towards the end when James Cromwell says to him, "Jack, don't start caring about things. You don't have the practice." And there's still a look on his face as he's just like dealing with this like shiv to the side of his being. It was just like,
and then the literal gunshot.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a really good performance. And Crow, this might be maybe one of the best Crow performances.
I think so. I am not generally a huge fan of Russell Crowe, and I dig him. Again, character is an asshole, but kind of dig what he's doing here in terms of acting. Like, I don't know how much Gotham you've had the displeasure of seeing, but I think Benjamin McKenzie probably watches this performance on loop because it just looks like he's doing an impression of this character.
And copies the haircut.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this was right in the midst of Crow's real rise to the top where people saw him as this great actor. Yeah. And I think he's kind of more appropriately come down to earth in stature since then.
Yes.
But you can see that he's not talentless, for sure.
For sure.
Actually, in both movies, you can see he's not talentless.
Yeah.
And I think the movie does just enough to say, like, he is an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think the movie is presenting him in a way where it's like this person is admirable for the things that he's doing.
Like, this is our good guy of these three not great guys.
Yeah, he's the one who actually gets it. And I don't think the movie's doing that.
Yeah.
When you're not making his actions the bad guy, you can, like, make some arguments, blah, blah, blah. You're romanticizing it, and I would be sensitive to those arguments, but I do think they are deconstructing this archetype of the cop who crosses the line because that's what you need to do to be a good cop. They're not presenting it positively.
No, and his partner did that, and he gets kicked off the force and everything, and then it's almost like, right, he's better than this guy, but he is still somewhat like him, and he's not as good as movies and television shows usually portray this cop to be. Yes. I like the touch that, like I said, they give you the two scenes of each of them, and they switch between, and I like the touch that, based on our very first scene with him being just, assaulting a man who's being a woman, and good. When he spots the girl in the car with the broken nose, before he even does it, that he's going to go over there, and he is intrigued by that. It's just like a nice touch that it's like, oh, well, obviously this is going to be something for him, and they do it with all three of them. Like, we find out who they are in their first scenes, and then we kind of see a telegraphed thing that will lure them in their second scene, like the chance at the money for Jack and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just like that. Sorry, if you want to talk about Ed.
And I think this is one of those movies also where I became very confused at a young age where the clear lead in the movie was not the first actor listed.
Yeah.
Like Guy Pearce is the lead in this movie. Yeah. And I don't know, it was always very confusing to me that he was not the first actor billed. No. Anyway.
You learned the politics of Hollywood.
Yeah. Guy Pearce does a good job here. Guy Pearce is a super inconsistent actor.
He is. Yeah, there are times you see him in movies and you're like, why aren't you an enormous star? And then there are times you can't even think of a film he's been in.
And then you're like, oh, that's why you're not.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Hey, Aldrich Killian.
Was that Prometheus?
No, in Iron Man 3.
Oh, right, Iron Man 3. Oh, yeah, he was real terrible in that. He's really good here. It's a tough role to do well. It's a tough role, especially compared to the more showy roles of Bud White and Jack Vincennes.
Yeah, they're like the glamorous sort of baked-in types of cop, and then this is the guy that, like, certain people are going to see this kind of cop and be like, yeah, that's not a real cop or whatever. And it's like, he's on some level he is there's no argument. He is in theory the most morally upright of the three. It's just he has his own shortcomings that work against him. Yeah,
I mean, like, he has no sense of how to do the right thing in a way that will not get your head cut off.
Yes.
You know, like, you have to, like, survive these institutions if you want to so supposedly do the right thing with them, and you can't do that if you're dead. Like, you can't make things better if you don't work there.
Yeah.
And he was clearly setting himself up to, you know, be taken out in some way.
Indeed.
But I think it is interesting because I think we are so conditioned in films and television to kind of see his actions as immoral in the beginning. Yeah. And it's really not about his actions. It's about how he does it, which is that, like, it's the smirk on his face while he's doing it that kind of, like,
and sort of coming up with this elaborate way to throw certain cops under the bus, like, pardon others, which ones would be suitable for this, how can I benefit?
I mean, like, in a lot of ways, he's right about Bud White. Like, Bud White at that point was kind of just acting like, was only using one side of his brain to be a cop, from what we could tell. And part of that was probably how he was conditioned to be, but, you know, as much as we would like to just beat up people who we think are convinced or we're even positive we know are doing terrible things to women, that's not really cop behavior that we should be romanticizing or putting up on a pedestal.
Based on what his backstory is that he reveals later in the film, you just get the sense that his journey to being a cop was just like, he wants to hurt the people that hurt vulnerable people. You know, like, he was too small to do anything at one point in his life, and now he's big enough, he wants to protect, you know, and he's, you know, he's this crusading white knight, but deeply flawed.
We all enjoy Batman, but, like, fascism, bad.
Fascism, bad. More hot takes from the real world.
Characters are important, and fascism, bad.
Cool.
Why does you listen to any other podcast?
Yeah. When we eventually grow this into a huge empire, we will have these written on plaques around the real world offices, you know, fascism, bad. Characters important.
These are our taglines.
Yes. Did you put that on the masthead somewhere on the site?
Actually, I'll try to figure out a way how to do that.
Okay.
Fascism, bad. Characters are important.
There you go.
that will be up there. We probably have to quickly go over 3 other characters here. I mean, like, this movie's really about those 3 guys.
Yeah.
But
I also think a huge part of why it does have such a legacy is the tone, the period, like the setting, the historical accuracy, and on the one hand, you can't ignore some of the problems that very much existed in this era of America. On the other, seeing the just rampant racism, sexism, homophobia, it's kind of like, And this is always a problem when you do a historical piece. Like, you don't want to pretend, oh, it was actually fine, and look at all these people that stood up against racism or whatever. But on the other hand, it's ugly to look at. And, like, if your movie isn't about taking a stand against that, if it's not, here's some ugly behaviour we don't condone, then it's tricky, because this doesn't necessarily come to anyone's defence when they are treated this way, but it is true to the time. So I appreciate that is a difficult line to walk.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels exploitative in this movie, because it's like, okay, we want to acknowledge racist stereotypes, we want to acknowledge rape, we want to acknowledge homophobia, but they're really just tokens in these journeys of these
3 white men, 3 straight white men.
Yeah.
Although Ed, you know,
and then, of course, like, the black people were framed, but they were raping somebody.
Yeah, like, and you know, the Mexican rape victim, you know, lying to incriminate people for revenge, and
it's,
you know, riling up the black suspects with sort of homophobic language and all of this stuff. It is all very...
It's not good.
No,
and if that was like a deal breaker for somebody on this, like if they watched it for the first time in 2018, I'd be like, I get that.
Yeah,
like, I'm not gonna...
It would be fair. Like, look at all these wonderful costumes, vehicles, settings. Isn't this all hyper-realistic? Yes, it's great. Look at all this iconic, like, LA geography and all this sort of stuff. However, also, look at all of this, if anything, underselling how awful the times were.
Right. And then also, you know, if you're not... It's one thing to show the ugliness. It's another thing to just kind of make the ugliness props in your story.
Yeah.
Which is what they do. And it sucks.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Speaking of this, and you also wanted to talk about other characters, I think you can sort of link these 2 together. Kim... I'm going to say Basinger. I don't know if you want to go with Basinger. I don't know how people like to pronounce that name. Did she win the Oscar? Or
she did.
Yeah,
this was her only nomination. She was the only person from the movie nominated for acting.
Yes. Her role in this I think is somewhat insulting to...
There's a lot going on here.
There is. Obviously, they're different categories, so you can't directly compare, but I would not call this the best performance in the movie. It almost feels like you're better than this role you were given. Here's an Oscar.
It's kind of like Mark Wahlberg being the only person nominated for The Departed.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's like...
How did the stars align for that?
Okay. I'm like, whatever. I'm not, like, grossly offended he gets a nomination, I guess. Sure, whatever. But
one of his better performances. But, yeah, look at all the other amazing
the
people.
only person in that movie to be nominated?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
And this has the additional fun of it being a really strange role. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about things just being kind of a oppression being used as, like, an arc or as a prop in the stories of, like, straight white dudes. Mm-hmm. Russell Crowe beating her up and then her not caring feels like that.
And then driving off with him at the end.
Yeah.
Ed borderline raping her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every woman in this film is subservient, like a secretary, an abuse victim, a hooker. Like, it's not great. From that perspective, and that this is the meatiest role for a woman in it, and the way she is treated as an object between these guys, and you know, Bud wanting to kill Ed for sleeping with her, even though, is it implied she stopped being a prostitute while she was with Bud? Like, why does this bother him?
Yeah, you know, it's like you can't. Bad Man doesn't work if Peggy Olson isn't the second lead in the show. It's one thing to show the ugliness, but you need to show the people too, and they need to be a bigger part of the story. Yeah. And I think they did some legwork to make her a real character with agency to a certain degree. But, you know, at the end of the day, James Cromwell probably had more screen time than her. You know, like, it's just not...
higher build than her in the credits as well.
Yeah. It's not good.
Yeah, I just...
It makes me feel squeamish.
Yes.
At the very least.
And she is attracted to Russell Crowe because he's, like, different when he basically just talks down to her for the entirety of their sort of first couple of interactions. And I don't know, it's just, you can do better, girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? Like...
It's one of those things where it's like, yes, you can conceive that a person would do all these things theoretically, and it's not these things couldn't happen, but it's the way you present it and the context of which you're presenting it in. And I think they fail the mark. I missed the mark pretty badly on this.
Yes. And again, all of this is stuff to somewhat condemn this film for. I will, just to loop it back to positive, say overall I do generally really like this film. It's just this is you can't not talk about this, because I'm sure when it came out no one batted a fucking eyelid, because it's like, oh yeah, this is how life was, aren't these white guys great? But I think in modern sensibilities you can't watch this film and not notice this stuff, even if it doesn't like bother you to the degree it bothers us precious social justice warriors. I don't see how you can not notice it.
Yeah. And, you know, like, it has some, like, advantages. It's, like, it's not like something like Three Billboards where, like, the violently racist cops are, like, it's about their redemption. Yes. Like, it's more like society and the institutions are racist, and, like, these people are players in that. And there's just, like, there's a difference. But
none of our main three seem to have any particular racial prejudices. It's more like the times were racist.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
It is.
Feel no pressure to like this movie. I absolve you.
No.
I'm saying the
generally
audience.
The audience. Yeah. Well, no one should feel any pressure to like anything, Mike.
That's not true.
Okay.
But this one in particular,
Hoop Dreams is a objectively perfect movie.
I give everyone permission to not like this movie.
Okay. Do check with Mike. I really, really, really enjoy that Ed interrogation scene, even if it does contain the stuff we've just talked about. Just the way that is shot, with him going from room to room and like turning the audio off and turning, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think that is an exciting scene that is well done.
Curtis Hanson's a good movie maker, or was a good movie maker.
8 Mile, maybe.
8 Mile. This movie is really well done technically.
Yes.
On every level.
Yes. The music, the score is amazing. Like, that is an all-time great score for me. But
yeah, and the supporting performances are on point. Like, Danny DeVito's really good in this.
He is.
It's kind of weird to think of, like, taking Danny DeVito seriously in a movie. Like,
I know, right?
It's been a long time since I think anyone's had to do that. But he's really, really good in this. I think probably one of the odder things, it doesn't really matter, but, like, what a lifeless role for David Strathairn. Like, like, he does nothing in the movie, but, like, he's...
you know I'm guilty, but nothing will ever really come of it.
Yeah. Anyway, that was kind of weird. But anyway, other than that, nothing really feels like a waste. It's a really well done movie in most respects.
What do you think of James Cromwell?
I really like his performance here.
I do as well. I
think he's I think he's a great actor.
Yeah.
2, another hot take that will also be in the masthead. Character's good. Fascism bad. Yeah. James Cromwell actually good.
Actually good. Okay, good. I really like the scene just before he kills Jack when they're having that discussion. The whole scene where he kills Jack. They telegraph it just before it happens because he talks about Buzz in the exact same way he talked about Stensland at the beginning. And, saying, he failed every physical he ever had and all this. And it was just like, oh, hang on. And then bam, gunshot. And the whole Rollo Tomasi thing, like, a little bit of a stretch, but a cool little beat, I think.
Well, I mean, what doesn't make sense is why would he say that to Ed? Like, of all the people. What are the chances absolute last person you would ask about it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was kind of like a really stupid tell.
It's their rosebud.
Yeah. As a kid, it really reminded me of Kaiser Soze because it was like 2 weird names and it involves a Kevin Spacey twist.
Nice.
But other than that, like I feel like it was almost like they thought they had this really brilliant idea and then no one questioned them on it. It's like, would he really tell Guy Pearce Rollo Tomasi? Wouldn't he tell almost anybody else?
And would he immediately be able to interpret the true meaning of that? I guess, yeah. Fine. There are a couple of those moments here where someone makes a bit of a leap, but hey, we like detective stories. I don't like the ending. I don't like that. Pretty much from when Bud goes to beat up Ed, from that point onwards, I'm kind of not a huge fan. Like, I realise that you need excitement for the end of your movie, but this all culminating in a big shootout where basically everyone dies, instead of anyone kind of cleanly getting busted or I don't know, that wasn't satisfying to me. And Ed shooting Dudley in the back, I don't know, it feels a little bit inauthentic, and maybe that's the point, that like this journey has brought him to this point where he kind of sees what they were talking about at the beginning, when I think he almost literally asks him, would you be willing to shoot a guilty man in the back, sort of thing. Like, I get it from that perspective, but it just felt a little bit... All I could think of was him at the beginning trying to stop everyone from doing things that aren't legal. Seeing characters like plant guns on people and plant evidence, and then it comes down to the end and he shoots this guy in the back and then takes another promotion. It's like, okay, well... Or a medal or whatever. I wasn't a fan of that, personally.
I think this is a really prime example of seeing this so much as a kid influencing me now, because as a kid, like, the shootout was great. It was a shootout.
Sure.
It's characters you're invested in, shootout, boom. And every time I watch as an adult, I'm like, this seems really weird. This doesn't seem like a movie that ends in a shootout.
Yeah, right?
Like, when did this become a Western all of a sudden? And I think I'm at peace with it, but I still appreciate how weird it is tonally to just go into a shootout. And I think it's a well done one for the most part.
Sure. And like, when they see it coming and like all the lights are coming from the distance, like, oh, you guys are fucked, and like that's good stuff in a movie. Tension, also good. Write that one down. But I just, thematically it doesn't quite feel right to me. I generally don't like it in movies where the payoff is killing the bad guy, And I get it, like, some people, he'll get out, he'll grease all the wheels and he'll get away with it and keep doing it, but I've never quite been on board with this notion that, I shot the bad guy, everybody wins, it's all been worth it, I don't know.
Which is why you need a 13-year-old girl to be your conscious of the movie. Exactly. Transition.
Thank you. Alright, so that was LA Confidential. Let's talk about The Nice Guys. I decided to follow up a Shane Black detective story with another Shane Black detective story. This is The Nice Guys by him, and this allows 2 plugs of podcasts organically, because it features the kid from Iron Man 3. You should listen to Ben and Matt's Marvelous Journey on therealworld.com.
And the Leftovers girl.
Exactly, and the Leftovers girl, Margaret Qualley. Listen to Countdown to Destruction, our Leftovers podcast. That out of the way. If you listened to the episode last year, you heard me just wax lyrical about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It's not a sequel in any way, but it's kind of a similar concept. So when I discovered this, I was all about it. I don't think it is as good of a film as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It has some areas that were sort of problematic about Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I think this is better in those regards, but I don't think it's overall as good, but just, I'll take this if I can get it. Like, I think he writes a fun little, quirky, unexpected realism type, two dumb guys sort of lucking their way through things, so that kind of stuff. Like it has a lot of the Shane Black-isms, like stuff like throwing the gun to Healy and it flies over his head and out the window, and throwing a body over a fence and it lands on someone's table. Like, it reminded me of like some of the stuff in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang where like he accidentally pisses on a corpse, and like, who would have thought we'd have to deal with this? Like, I like that. And I think neither of these men, Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, are Robert Downey Jr.
Or Val Kilmer.
No, or Val Kilmer. But I think you're getting good performances out of both of them. Ryan Gosling in particular, I admire the degree to which he was willing to make a complete ass of himself in this film, as he strikes me as someone who takes himself a little bit too seriously based on some of his choices for films, like
La La Land.
Yes, well, okay, sure. And I can't stand Drive, or more the cult around Drive.
I want to bring this up. I feel like we as a society have forgotten Drive, and I think this is a good thing.
Sure, absolutely. Like, that was not a great...
Don't promise me the bank job and then in the trailers and then give me that. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't give me an excellent first scene and then like never replicate that.
Don't do that. Anyway.
Yeah, like Holland March being this complete fucking doofus who like is trying to hold a gun with his pants down, like trying to keep a door open. All great stuff. Him screaming constantly when he should be doing something heroic. Big fan. Him
confirming my worst fears that you should never punch a window because you'll accidentally kill yourself.
That was really my favorite. Him just slitting his own wrist and passing out. Amazing stuff.
In terms of the Shane Black-isms, I think the one that needs to be mentioned the most, and was by far my favorite moment of the movie, is them taking the elevator upstairs and seeing the immediate after effects of like one of those amazing psycho killers like tearing through people,
murdering everyone, and them just getting back in the lift like nope.
In every movie you would see that scene happen, and you never see the actual immediate aftermath of it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was by far the best moment in the movie.
I did very much really enjoy that. Yeah. The Shane Blackism that we most sort of pinpointed, the major flaw with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, was kind of the attitudes towards women. Like the way Harry spoke to, I don't even remember, Harmony. The sort of feminism by men thing where he's like, you shouldn't be okay with someone groping you in your sleep, and him sort of slut-shaming her. I think this movie is better in that regard. However, there are still some underlying, like, maybe Shane Black hates women moments. Like, one of Russell Crowe's first lines of dialogue is, marriage is buying a house for someone you hate. And I think Amelia, the character, sort of getting killed after they finally find her and stuff. I don't know, just there is a slight underlying current of this guy is only interested in male characters, but...
Shane Black is has always been a man of a certain age, and he's only getting older. That's how I would describe it.
Very nice.
That just came to me a few seconds ago. I was pretty proud of it. I was really excited. I was really excited to roll it out.
That is very profound.
And I think the most telling thing is his hatred of optimism or caring about things, or like there's one. I mean, the fact that Amelia cares about things is considered a punchline.
Yeah, and they all just keep beating her over the head with it. Like.
And then the fact that there's a protest is like due to a totally like good thing to protest.
You're protesting the air. It's like, no, you fucking dipshit.
You're protesting
the lack of clean air.
Yeah. The government is sold out. Like, he's a man of a certain age. He's only going to get older.
Yeah.
And this is what I would say. When I saw Kiss Kiss Bang Bang for the first time, I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And when I saw The Nice Guys for the first time, I was 29 years old. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't do it for me quite as much as it at 29 as it did at 18.
This isn't hitting me on that same level as I said, and I think it's not just because objectively this isn't as good. I just think, the act is growing a little bit old, but just there will always be this kind of special place in my heart for that shtick. And, seeing an alternative to these guys that are just grizzled and just punching their way through every situation, and seeing stuff like Tandy throwing coffee on Tandy only for it to be cold, and then she slips on it anyway and you think she's dead for a minute. Like, just this sort of bumbling kind of thing. I'm into that.
Yeah. I think the key to this movie still working, even though I'm not going to be super enthusiastic about it, is that Ryan Gosling is just a complete idiot.
Yes, he is.
He is and it's done in this somehow genuine, even if ridiculous way.
Yeah.
Where it's just like he's just stupid and worthless.
He just thinks he's this really good detective, and he's not. And all he deals with are these just nutcases, and he pretends he's super good at it. And just you get the sense that Russell Crowe is like, what do you need him for? I'm a huge fan of him hiding behind the car that's on the rotating table, and he just is slowly revealed. And it's like, oh shit!
I mean, there are a lot of good gags. There's a lot of good physical gags in this. I think the way Ryan Gosling presents himself is the key. Because if you go like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. has it in him to present himself that way.
No. And
I think the characters are pretty similar in terms of how stupid they are. But Gosling really goes all in and being just like, I'm a doofus.
Yeah,
I am a schlubby dude, and there's no reason that you should all be empathetic about.
Yeah, you are with Gay Perry when he slaps Harry down for being a moron, but then you are fundamentally not left with the idea that he is a moron. You're just like, this is a cool guy. He said a stupid thing. I do kind of. This wasn't going to damage his career to be seen this way, but I do kind of admire him being so willing to just.
He did what he needed to do to make the movie work. I would say.
LA Confidential set in the 50s, this set in the 70s. It's got a little bit less of a clear visual identity, but I think that's true of the 70s generally. I think it's a very nebulous decade. There's a very clear mentality of the 60s, of the 80s. The 70s is something quite weird.
I mean, I had no idea. The 70s are this nebulous time where we don't have an identity.
Really?
I don't know.
I thought this was a thing that, the 60s and 80s are so set in stone, and then the 70s is a bit weird and up in the air.
I'm not even saying it is or it isn't. It's just it's a bold thing to claim.
I will stand by it.
I have no counterclaim. I have no refuting evidence against it. That's why I'm just going to say sure.
All you have is laughter while modifying our masthead to say character's good. I still enjoy it being this sort of period piece, and you got the knockoff Earth, Wind and Fire and this seedy LA party and stuff. Fun fact, Robert Downey Jr. played that corpse that Ryan Gosling freaks out about at the party.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key to this movie not making me care is that there's nothing to care about. They had a typical another breathtaking take. I know the plot is very convoluted. Maybe I wasn't giving it my full attention. I'm just like, wait, why do I care? Who's this person? How is this person connected back to what we're doing?
It doesn't seamlessly come together in the way that Kiss Kiss Bang Bang does, and that even LA Confidential does, which does have a few sort of leaps of logic, but still works, whereas this does kind of have a lot of very circumstantial shit happening.
Yeah, and Michelle Monaghan was a character, a half-baked one, clearly third billing compared to Kilmer and Downey Jr., but we had no investment in Amelia that compared to the one.
They're looking for her. They find her. She dies. She is she is just there to propel the greater mystery that they do bury it right at the beginning. They talk back to back about the death of Misty Mountains, and then they start talking about the car thing, and then they are paired together throughout the movie, and then it's revealed that it's all connected. But it's just not as slick of a mystery. I think they're trying to be too cute with it.
It almost kind of feels like it's the convolutedness. It reminds me of True Detective season 2, where it's by the time we're at the payoff, I'm just like, wait, what did any of this mean?
I could not tell you what the overall plot of True Detective Series 2 was.
I could barely tell you what the plot of The Nice Guys is, and I watched it over 3 viewings in the last 3 days. And I think that was kind of my source of just disconnect with it, which is that, one, Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling are two perfectly good physical comedian idiots to make this movie enjoyable, but I wasn't hooked into the story.
I think this is a movie that has great gags, and I think it has good character performances. It's just the connecting tissue isn't there.
There's no through line to really hook you in.
I think the kid, Anjali Rice, I think she's great here. I think Matt Bomer as John Boy is a great sort of baby-faced assassin type guy, even if he's not in it for long, but it is quite a compelling little psycho villain. I'm a big fan of the scene where he falls asleep at the wheel
Yes.
And then at the end, he goes for the ankle gun, and he completely forgets he dreamed it. I thought that was quite a nice moment, but yeah.
Like, there are a ton of really good gags like that.
Yeah.
I think I told you after, like, the first hour watching, like, I wanted to see this in the theater, and I really wish I did see it in the theater.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can picture myself laughing my ass off in a crowded theater with it.
I will say it's lost its luster for me with each viewing. Like, when I saw this for the first time, I was like, oh my god, I am obsessed with this movie. And then I watched it again, and I was like, it's good. And then when I watched it for this, I was kind of like, maybe it's because I've seen it too recently, or I don't know. But I still fundamentally like it, and I'm glad we...
Listen, it's got a thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
It's just a tepid one. It's just an unenthusiastic one.
If it's on, watch it. Don't go out your way.
Like, it could get a series of, Golden Globe Best Comedy / or Musical Award nominations, and I would have been like, okay, sure.
Okay, sure, yeah. Well, then, I guess that's it. I guess we've covered them both.
That's Christmas.
That's Christmas. Put it in the books. See you next year.
Yeah, where we'll look for some more Christmas-adjacent movies that we are, at least one of us is deeply invested in on some level.
I think that's been the way each time. Who knows what we will come up with next time. Lots of great content on The Real World at the moment.
Oh, yeah. I'll do a plug for The Real World.
Okay, go for it.
Our first episode of the Matrix podcast, not bad. Way better than what we just recorded right now.
I think you're underselling this. I think this is one of our most grown-up pieces of podcasting that us two big broken clown boys have ever done. So.
Yeah. It was. I hadn't listened back to one of our podcasts recently, I guess, because, we've been recording less frequently compared to other things on the site.
Yeah.
But I listened to it, I was like, oh, right, this is why we want to talk about... I mean, this is why the X-Men and Batman podcasts, I think, were mostly our best stuff, because we had a lot of time and perspective on it, and we were both deeply invested in it.
Okay.
And
hopefully we can deliver something like that in 2019.
Yeah.
You should also check out From Broadcast Depth, which is Kevin Ford and Ben Lundy's Lost podcast. They are motoring their way through that. Even though I'm the one that uploads it every week, it still blows my mind. It's like, wait, weren't we just on season 1? And they're like way deep into it now, so...
Yeah, I saw that like one of the titles was like LaFleur. I'm just like, is that like season 5? Like,
yeah, they're in season 5. It's crazy.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's how long we've been not podcasting together for.
Meanwhile, all of our plans have fallen to the wayside. Get excited for more Matrix podcasts that we recorded in the summer.
With no explanation as to why there's no talk of the heat wave in that first one. But
okay, that's what I was worried that you edited them out.
No, I guess maybe it wasn't.
I was really looking forward to it.
Maybe it wasn't as hot, but we definitely bitched about it in the other ones, and I will not be taking that out. It will be presented without comment.
Good. This one should go up around Christmas Day, literally, I think you said, right?
I'm going to try and upload it today, actually.
Oh, perfect. That way. Meanwhile, in a fun bit of behind-the-scenes scoops for you, I'm about to run to go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then in 3 hours, we're going to record that podcast.
Yeah, I saw it last week, and I will not give you my opinion on it, but I'm looking forward to podcasting about it. I'll be editing this while you're watching a movie.
There we go.
There you go. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Characters good. Fascism bad. James Cromwell, actually good.
New masthead.
How you like